In today's news, just last night, BVI confirms 12th COVID-19 case.
Royal Virgin Islands Police weekly arrest Blotter, and a USVI 101-year-old Queen Louise home resident dies of COVID-19, and 41 cases reported in the USVI on Wednesday. All this and more when 284 News returns.
I think you need to clearly see what happened.
As far as what?
You and I, we decided we were gonna take our space. What happened?
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement in August. That's what I said.
An entanglement.
Yes. Yes.
An entanglement.
Yes.
A little entanglement never hurt nobody. For the month of August, enjoy double the fun when you activate a 2 GB data plan or any hero plan and get double data. But wait, man, we're making things even sweeter. We've got a deal even Jada can't resist. Sign up for Go Fast LTE and get your modem for only $149. The catch is, there's no contract required, but you'll definitely need the willpower to leave. So come get entangled with August. In August with the home team.
34 years and counting.
We ride together.
We die together.
CCT for life.
Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, August 20th, 2020. Another beautiful evening here in the British Virgin Islands. I am Kyla Kenesha Forbes.
And I'm Ron Grant. It's always a pleasure coming to you direct out of the British Virgin Islands, giving you all the updates regionally, locally, and of course internationally. Kyla, before we get into today's newscast, there's quite a bit going on in the region, particularly over in St. Kitts and Nevis. They're planning to reopen their borders come October 20th. As a matter of fact, they're making provisions to allow a few cruise lines to dock within the vicinity in the waters of St. Kitts under very strict protocols. In addition to that, over in the Bahamas, we're covering and watching closely as residents of the Bahamas, they're protesting consistently as the stay-at-home order, particularly over in the Bahamas, is taking shape. In addition to that, we have the leader of the PLP, Philip Brave Davis. He is going to be airlifted to the Bahamas, Bahamas. He's from the Bahamas, and he's going to be airlifted to the USA today. He is contracted COVID-19, and his daughter has requested that he come a little bit closer. He is the leader of one of the parties over there in the Bahamas. We see where COVID-19 is not slowing down, and is definitely causing a bit of a ruckus as we look not only locally but regionally, internationally as well.
Most definitely, Ron. Just earlier this week, we spoke about the fact that COVID-19 does not discriminate, and we see it all across the region, really and truly. But we are just hoping for the best. Even here in the BVI, we have confirmed another case, and we'll get into the details of that just in a little bit. But we have one more thing to announce. Just last week, we spoke with the entrepreneurs of the Man Jack's Creamery, and as of today, we are happy to say and report that the ice cream parlor is actually back up and running. We reached out to the owners, and they were saying that there was no resolve necessarily between themselves and the labor department, but many persons, many customers, public persons reached out to them and really pleaded with them to not close down the creamery, and we see where they're back in action. So we're definitely happy to see that.
Definitely, Kyla. We would all remember the Manjack feature and story, which caused quite a conversation in their BVI. However, I want persons to understand that when it comes to business, at the end of the day, he said there was no resolve, but you have to ask yourself a question: who are you really hurting? And this might come across as really insensitive or blunt, but at the end of the matter, I think in the final analysis, that's what has to be asked. The question, who are you hurting when you perhaps decide to close your doors? It's a form of protest, and I get that, but we want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves at a disadvantage. Nevertheless, for the persons who are patrons, many persons I know, a particular popular flavor is the Guinness ice cream. You know I love my Guinness, Kyla, so we're happy to see them back, and I'll definitely stop by and show them some support.
We definitely should do that. Now, as we just head right into the newscast because so much to cover, Ron. Just last night, Minister of Health and Social Development, Honorable Carmen Malone, in a live press conference, announced that in just 48 hours, the BVI has detected yet another COVID-19 case. Of course, this brings the territory's total reported cases of COVID-19 to 12. Honorable Malone explained that the patient arrived at the emergency room with moderate symptoms of the virus, and the patient was subsequently admitted and is currently isolated and hospitalized at the local hospital. But Ron, surprisingly, it revealed that the patient is legally residing in the Virgin Islands and has no history of recent travel out of or into the territory. Now, due to the fact of the patient having no recent history of travel, this case is not classified as imported. And, you know, when our most recent cases, at least the last 3 of them, were imported cases. Most of our cases here in the BVI were imported cases where patients went to another country, came in, had the virus, but thankfully was isolated and we did not see any community spread. But here we see where the BVI Health Service Authority has begun its efforts of aggressive contact tracing and is conducting an investigation into the origin of this case. The BVI Health Authority has taken a number of proactive steps to safeguard the institution and our community. Now, by doing steps such as visitation hours and privileges at the Dr. D. Orlando Smith has been suspended until further notice. All staff members which came into contact with the case has been traced and is being assessed during this time. Also, an analysis is being conducted to determine the level of exposure by each contacted staff member. And the apartment building at which the case resided is now in quarantine. Also, aggressive contact tracing of all close contacts of the individual has commenced and is being accelerated. And here this round, the bars and nightclubs to which the individual has frequented has been identified and would be contacted for further contact tracing. Members of the community are reminded of the importance. Yes. I think this case really reminds us of the importance of adhering to the established guidelines of social distancing, personal hygiene, wearing your face mask, and as simple as it is, hand washing. You know, businesses are admonished to constantly adhere to the protocols under which they were approved to operate by the Environmental Health Division. If persons, of course, we're pleading with persons, if you're experiencing any symptoms related to COVID-19, and that may look like a fever, a cough, headache, fatigue, loss of taste or smell, a sore throat, muscle aches, or difficulty breathing, make sure you contact the medical hotline at 852-7650. That is 852-7650 to schedule your appointment for testing. Ron, this story really came out of right field for much persons. The fact that it was not imported, we really and truly are, you know, we're unsure of the spread, where this may have come from. Is it community spread? What is the missing component in this case? And I think as of today and going forward, we've always been encouraged to wash our hands and social distancing, but this case really reiterates that for us.
Well, Kyla, as you said, it really reiterates that, but this case perhaps is every case is important, but when you look at the trajectory of the territory and how well we've been able to manage COVID-19, I would like to think that this case is probably one of the most daunting and most important. And when I say that, there are a couple things that I want to touch on this. First and foremost, persons are reminded that if you're experiencing symptoms, you're experiencing any of these symptoms, you do not show up to a medical facility. That's the first thing. You call the hotline and you experience or express your symptoms to them, right, and then you go from there. Going to a medical facility puts more persons at risk. Even
Yeah.
though you might be scared and you might be nervous as to what's going on, that's not the first approach. So I want persons to particularly understand that your first approach, if you feel as though you have COVID-19 symptoms, are to call the hotline, which we indicated previously, and express to them your symptoms. In addition to this, Kyla, the word community spread has not been spoken of perhaps by the authorities,
Yes.
but when you look at the trajectory of events, it's a little bit daunting as it pertains to the number of persons that may have came in contact with this said individual. And we want to make sure that persons are aware of how important it is to be in full understanding of the measures that could prevent against COVID-19, like you said, washing of the hands and wearing your mask and all that kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, we hear the term asymptomatic persons. You might be coming in contact with persons and they not knowing that they have the virus, but you somehow contract the virus. And I think in this case, we see where unfortunately other persons could be at risk, and that's the part that we don't want to gear to here in the BVI.
And most definitely, as you said, no official reports have reported or even mentioned community spread. So we definitely hope that this is not the case, and we're really hoping that everything turns out okay. But in recent days, we've been hearing a lot from our leaders about smuggling, and it makes to beg the question, may this have been the case in this situation? But Ron, we will be keeping a close look at this this investigation to really see the origin of this case, because I think that it's very important for us as the BVI, residents in the BVI, to really know what we're dealing with as it pertains to COVID-19.
And investigate we will, Kyla, because you know that's what we do a lot here. We're forced to be investigators and figure out the facts. But in addition to that, I want to add something to your point where leaders have spoken up against illegal smuggling. And I want to say this. At the end of the day, I don't expect our leaders to be able to fully be able to control a situation, because they can only do so much. But while it's the responsibility of residents, when it comes to border protection and border control, it is the responsibility of our government. And
Right.
when you have a government that has spoken up and said, listen, we are merging HM Customs, we're merging the police force, we're merging these entities, you would have thought that the workforce as it pertains to border protection would have been a lot stronger. And to
Right.
be honest with you, it's not. For whatever reason, it's not. If you go on Jos van Dyke or you go on Virgin Gorder, you don't see that police presence. You don't see that border protection. And that is something that needs to be addressed from a cabinet and a government's perspective. Are we doing enough to secure our borders in all aspects? You cannot just dump it on the residents. You have to do your job as it pertains to that. And then, for some reason, if that's those measures are not in place, then we could say, hey, we've done all we can, but for whatever reason, persons are still being smuggled, which I understand could still happen. But do and exhaust all options as it pertains to border protection, because that is really and truly one of the only ways that we're going to continue to protect ourselves.
Most definitely.
Now, continuing on the local scene, the Recreation Trust appointed by Cabinet on July 15th to ensure the fullest and most beneficial use of all recreational facilities in the territory. They held their first meeting this month. Minister for Education, Culture, Youth Affairs, Fisheries and Agriculture, Dr. the Honorable Natalio D. Wheatley, and Deputy Premier addressed the members and encouraged them to revitalize recreation in the Virgin Islands. Honorable Wheatley said, and I quote, "You are selected carefully based on your interests and skills. With this board, I am hopeful that we can take a bold step forward to making sure that the facilities are up and running and can maintain themselves." Chairman of the Trust, Mrs. Dawn Crabb Herbert, said that the mandate of the board is for the maintenance of all facilities, to raise and administer funds to ensure that the fullest and most beneficial use is made all recreational facilities, and to carry out its functions in cooperation with the government, local community associations, and other organized bodies for the community development works as stated in the Recreation Trust Ordinance Section 4. Now, Mrs. Crabb Herbert continued by saying, as a board, we intend to strive to fulfill this mandate by implementing structure and accountability in order to deliver on our mandate. Now, other members of the trust include co-chair Mr. Terrence Gums and members Mr. Byron Hodge, Mr. Mark Noel, Mrs. Stephanie Ross Penn, Mr. Alan Smith, Mr. Roy Pickering, Mr. DeAndre Reimer, Mr. Eric Brathwaite, ex officio members are the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education, as well as the designated executive director of the trust. Now, the Recreation Trust was established under the Section 2 and Schedule of the Recreation Trust Act 1966. This act was amended in May of 2012. Now, Kyla, this is a very important story, and I'll tell you why. At the end of the day, all across the territory, we see a lot of facilities, and it's a little bit disheartening when you drive through various communities and you see that they're not being maintained, not only with graffiti, but proper lighting, proper seating. And I think this Recreation Trust board really has a tall order, because when you look at a territory that is so heavy on sports, all across the territory, persons from all walks of life, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, whether it's cricket, we love sports and we're interested in sports of all different facets. But when you have the facilities not being maintained properly, it's disheartening, it's degrading, and it really and truly does not lend to the persons that want to utilize the facilities. And I think this board, based on the persons that have been nominated and placed in this position, I think they will do a good job. Another thing that we have to look at is our community centers. There are a number of community centers in the territory of the Virgin Islands, particularly, as a matter of fact, I think it's safe to say that there's 1 or 2 in each district. But when you look at the maintenance and you look at the presentation of many of those community centers, it's disheartening, and again, it's degrading. So I hope that this Recreation Board will really look into the act of making sure that community centers are being used for the purposes that they were created for, and making sure that they're kept in a upright and clean position.
Most definitely. Ron, I want to reiterate once again how important this story is, and I want to applaud the efforts of even forming this board. Why it's so important, because as you said, we have many facilities across the island in different communities, and because it has not been upkeep, we have been unable to use them, and we are robbing young persons, the opportunity to use these facilities to master their craft. As you said, sports, this is a big thing in the BVI, and since Hurricanes Irma and Maria, we have not been able to really get a hold on that, but we are seeing where that industry in sports is really being revitalized in the BVI. So I really, as you said, I think this board has a tall order. But I do want to wish them all the best, and I hope it is successful, because I think with proper maintenance, we can see a lot of talent coming out of the BVI.
Most definitely. Now, viewers, still ahead, the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, we have their weekly arrest blotter and a few weather updates for you as Tropical Depression 13 moves towards the BVI. All this and more when 284 News returns after a word from our sponsors.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, Ron, as we were saying, Tropical Depression 13 moved towards the BVI. For some weeks now, we've seen much activity in the Atlantic Ocean, Ron, moving towards the territory, away from the territory. And thus far, we are happy and we are blessed to not have had any major weather up to date. But now, the National Hurricane Center continues to monitor several tropical systems in the Atlantic. However, the focus is on Tropical Depression 13. The depression was upgraded at 11 p.m. at the 11 p.m. advisory, and during that period no major change has occurred. So as of 11 p.m. last evening it was upgraded, but to this time there was no major changes, and the current forecast models are projecting Tropical Depression 13 to be a tropical storm before passing just north or very close to the British Virgin Islands. The system is expected to begin affecting the BVI around Friday afternoon into Saturday. Residents should continue to monitor Depression 13 as it progresses further west and be prepared to take action if needed. Now, as of this morning, the center of Tropical Depression 13 was located nearly latitude 15.2 north, longitude 49.8 west, or about 986 miles from the BVI. The depression is moving towards the west-northwest near 21 miles per hour, and this motion is expected to continue for the next few days. Now, maximum sustained winds are near 35 miles per hour with higher gusts, and gradual strengthening is forecasted, and the depression is expected to become a tropical storm by later this evening. Now, the impacts of this system may be winds of tropical storm force. It may be possible rainfall, heavy squalls with rainfall amounts of 1 to 3 inches and more in some isolated areas. But Ron, Governor of the Virgin Islands, he said in a statement, he's really reminding persons to be vigilant. He said, and I quote, "While still classified as a depression at the moment, this system is expected to develop into a tropical storm very soon. If it continues on its current track and speed, the British Virgin Islands may begin to feel the effects of this system late Friday. Forecasters may place the territory on storm watch as of today." He also added, and I quote, "Given all of that, I urge all of us in the BVI to pay very close attention to this system and bear in mind that watches and warnings may be issued in short notice. If you have been putting off any final preparations at home or your businesses, now is the time to complete them. In the upcoming days, we really urge persons and to just be vigilant, both in watching the weather, but also as we deal with COVID-19, also looking at social distancing, Ron."
Most definitely. Carla, one of the things that we advise our viewers is even before the hurricane season began, as we prepared for it, we're going to have to deal with COVID-19 and the hurricane season all in one. And for any territory, I think that's a lot. For any business, that's a lot. Any family, that's a lot. But what will help us to be a little bit more, this situation to be a little bit more bearable is just preparation. And persons are advised to continue to watch and monitor. I know a lot of persons love to hear if there's going to be some rain because we like the rain, but we want to make sure that we're prepared and secured in these endeavors because we're dealing with a lot as a territory all in one.
Agreed.
Now, continuing on the local scene, the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, they issued their arrest blotter. We're going to share that with you today. Police arrested and charged Albert George Jr., 38, of the Valley Virgin Gorda for wounding, unlawful possession of a controlled drug, and 2 counts of being armed with an offensive weapon. He was granted bail in the amount of $5,000. Police arrested and charged Alfred Letzum, 51, of Parham Town, for keeping an unlicensed firearm. He appeared before the magistrate's court and was granted bail in the amount of $30,000. Police also arrested and charged Vernon Lake, 41, of Horse Path, for assault occasioning actual bodily harm. He was granted bail in the amount of $5,000. Additionally, police arrested and charged Anthony Maynard of Long Trench for assaulting occasioning actually bodily harm. He was granted bail in the amount of $4,000. Police arrested and charged Jermaine Stout, 29, of Mayab for assaulting occasional actual bodily harm. He was granted bail in the amount of $5,000. Police arrested and charged Clifford Studdard, 63, of Lower Estate for theft. He was granted bail in the amount of $5,000. Police arrested and charged Pedro Julio Samuel, 35, of King Garden Bay, for illegal entry and breach of curfew. He appeared before the magistrate's court and was granted bail in the sum of $40,000. Additionally, police arrested and charged Denny Deneville, 24, of Lower Estate for illegal entry and breach of curfew. He was appeared before the magistrate's court and was granted bail in the sum of $40,000. Police arrested and charged Cleavon Thompson, 31, of Paramtown, for failure to comply with a lawful order given by police, assault on police, reckless driving, reckless and negligent act, driving without identification plate. He was granted bail in the amount of $5,000. Police arrested and charged Rashawn Williams, 20, of Horse Park for failure to comply with a lawful order given by police. He was resisting arrest, dangerous driving, failure to stop at the sound of a siren, and criminal damage. He was granted bail in the amount of $10,000. Police arrested and charged Clifton Scatliff, 56, of Foy Hill for 2 counts of breach of final protection order, threatening language, and insulting language. He remains in police custody pending his appearance at the magistrate's court. Kyla, we see where our Royal Virgin Islands Police Force continue to have their hands full. One of the things that we see coming up in the arrest blotter time after time is the illegal entry and breach of curfew, which a lot of persons will, first of all, we no longer have a curfew. Many persons would be in excitement for that, but we see where that has taken its toll, as well as the illegal entry. So we're following quite a bit on the law enforcement scene here in the Virgin Islands.
Most definitely.
Now, still ahead, USVI, we're not sure if we're going to get to that story, but a 101-year-old Queen Louise home resident unfortunately dies after COVID-19 at the Schneider Hospital, and 41 cases reported on Wednesday, and a former advisor to President Trump charged with fraud. All this and more when 284 News returns.
Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.
Viewers, welcome back. You're watching 284 News. Now, continuing on, just taking a look over in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Department of Human Services on Wednesday evening confirmed the passing of a 101-year-old woman who died of COVID-19 at the Schneider Regional Medical Center. The woman was a resident at the Queen Louise home for the aged who was receiving medical care at the hospital when she passed. Now, the Department of Health did not reveal, or the Department of Human Services rather, did not reveal the cause of death. However, it was included in the Department of Health's Wednesday night COVID-19 data, which saw 41 confirmed cases territory-wide as of Wednesday, and 16 on St. Croix, another 2 on St. Thomas. And now, neither the Department of Social Services as well as Health revealed the identity of the victim. The 11 residents who tested positive at that same facility remain in relatively good health, thankfully. There are currently 11 residents at the hospital who are positive, 10 in good health, and 1 who is being closely watched. Now, the residents who initially tested negative, Kyla, were on non-congregate care setting, while the home was sanitized and is preparing to welcome them again in the safest way. Kyla, we continue to watch the situation over in the U.S. Virgin Islands as Governor Bryan and his team, as well as all professionals, healthcare workers, continue to try their best. We saw where a stay-at-home order was instrumented, but we're still seeing a very severe increase in these cases. As of Wednesday, again, 41 cases, a new 41 set of cases were mentioned, and we continue to wish our brothers and sisters over there in the U.S. Virgin Islands the very best, from St. Croix to St. John and of course St. Thomas.
Most definitely, Ron. As you said, looking at the numbers over there, if we really look at the numbers to date, the territory has actually tested 13,563 with 869 positive. But if we look at the recovery, we have 623 persons recovering. So we see where it is have a high recovery rate, but as you said, we do want to wish them all the best.
And they do definitely boast of a high recovery rate. There's no doubt about it. But while we have a good recovery rate over there, we still really don't want to continue to have persons at risk.
Most definitely. But Ron, we do have to wrap up tonight's newscast. It was great. Of course, viewers, you can catch us on Facebook as well as Instagram as well as Twitter. I am Kyla Kenesha Forbes.
And I'm Ron Grant. Happy Thursday, everybody. Bye-bye.